Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. This is where you get your daily dose of inspiration and growth. And I am your host. Finally, we will continue to explore of making elevation natural and sustainable. And we have a very special guest today who has discovered a beautiful way to transform stress into creativity and overwhelming into artistic expression. Miss Susan Hensley, she joins us to share how art journaling became her pathway to peace during major life transition. But before we bring her to the stage, we're going to take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. William C. Washington, aka Dr. Will, your friendly neighborhood counselor. One of the biggest things that I want to tell you about is that I'm a health psychologist, a licensed professional clinical counselor supervisor, an MDMA assisted therapist, a ketamine assisted therapist, a psychedelic integration prep specialist. I'm a researcher, a mentor, a supervisor, and also an artist. One of the biggest things about Washington Wells Institute is that I created this to modernize the way that we look into the world. And I hate to say it, but we're finally getting rid of the old ways of thinking. I want to bring in the silver age of psychology. And to do that, I've even created a model called restorative enhancement modality that focuses on motive and purpose to make healing a lifestyle. I want to offer this to you. I want to offer this to the world and to anyone that's ready to learn. So, if you're ready, sign up today. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, welcome back, my beautiful people. This is the Season of Self-Love podcast, and I am your host, Nyomi Banks. Well, today we are continuing our series on Elevate You, Unlock Your True Potential. And today we are talking about the art of sustainable growth with Susan Hensley. Hi, Miss Susan.
Hi there. How are you doing?
I am well. I am so well. So I'm excited about this topic. We are towards the end of this conversation of this series, and we'll be going into the new year. And so I just love even me reading your story of how you started off at HR and how, you found the cure to, well, I want to say it kind of like a cure to your stress on how you're getting through your stress. I think that's something that is really needed in this moment of time, especially right now, how things have changed for us and we becoming, the new year is coming around and new changes are changing guards for the world. But before we get into this conversation with you, I want to, kind of ground ourselves beforehand. All right. You ready?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, my beautiful people, if you could just find a comfortable position in space, all right? Find your comfortable space and take a deep breath in, centering yourself. Feel the creative energy within you, the natural flow of expression, the power of artistic release. Breathe into possibility, into playfulness, into childlike wonder. Feel your capacity for joy, for discovery, for natural growth. One final deep breath in, bringing this creative spirit with you. And when you are ready to explore new ways of being, My beautiful people, if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love Podcast, it's something we do every day, Monday through Friday, here on the Season of Self-Love Podcast. Again, Miss Susan, welcome to the Season of Self-Love. I am so excited for this conversation.
Me too. And thank you so much for having me. I think the timing with the new year upon us is perfect. And the theme is exactly what we're talking about, both that I've had in my own life and what I think art journaling can maybe do for folks.
Yeah, it's so funny when you say about art journaling. We hear about journaling, period. Everybody writing and stuff like that, but it never put it in that aspect like that. People say, "Well, go sit down and get you a canvas and start painting." Painting to release, but to journal it. That means you're telling a story of it all, and we're gonna get into that. But I want to go back. I want to go back. Because I've read part of your journey about, being HR executive and discovering a whole, and you kind of discover it during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can you find sustainability ways to elevate your life? And can you take us back to that moment when you realized that you needed something more?
Sure. And, what's interesting about, I've had a couple careers. And so I've been really blessed. But in the 20 plus years I was in HR, part of what I did is a lot of coaching, career coaching, leadership coaching. So I got exposed to a lot of really great tools. And I got to tell you, I meditate, I journal, I pray. So I've got like all the stuff going.
Yeah.
And there was a moment, none of it was enough. You think if you're doing all the stuff, you're going to make it through. And I'm one of those people who's sort of prone to anxiety. I think people can either be prone a little more to depression, a little more to anxiety. I'm definitely on the anxious side. And I'd gotten exposed to art journaling before the pandemic. And as part of my coaching practice, I always look for things that spark joy, right? I think our lives get really busy and we're grinding and going away and about our stuff. And I went to an art class a friend had over the weekend, and it was just on a Saturday morning, rainy Saturday morning. And she was trying to teach people like how to draw faces in proportion. I sort of sat in the corner. There's only about 5 or 6 of us there, a little cheese and crackers, maybe like little mimosas, or sort of like girls gathering. We're learning. So I sat in the corner and I ended up with some paints, and I just made a brown mess. Quite honestly, I was probably like, I don't even know what colors, purple and red. And it was a mess. I loved it. I did not learn about how to draw a face, and I didn't learn about like proportions. I was so excited, and I drove home to my house and I took my paint. I didn't throw it away. It was just this little brown mess. And I got home and I actually put it on the refrigerator. And my husband and son were like, what the heck? But I loved it. I was like my own proud parent, and it made me really curious. I coach others and I try and coach myself. Always harder to coach yourself. Let's be clear. We can have great advice for other people, right? And then, when you need to apply it to yourself. But I really thought, what was it about this I liked? And there was something about the playfulness, the lack of expectation, right? I had no reason at that age and that career stage to think I'm becoming an artist, right? I just had some fun. So I kept playing. And at that point in my life, we still had some kids' art materials, and like I'd be making breakfast or just waiting, instead of maybe scrolling on my phone, pick up some crayons and just doodle. And I started to get more and more and more curious. And then the pandemic hit, and I was working from home, but night and day and 7 days a week. And the benefits we get of being together weren't there. So you were replaced with lots of anxiety if we think back. And I really leaned into more and more the art journaling, and it helped me over time clarify things. But where it really started was just that spark of some play. And then it started to become a safe container for emotions and a way to separate what was going on in my mind and my fears into a safe space. You're just scribbling on a page. You're making a mess, but that's it, right? You're processing it, you're getting it out, but in a very constructive manner. So that was sort of that initial genesis. And I can go on and on, but I'll just sort of pause there and see what questions you have, because then it developed and developed and developed.
All right, so I guess let's go to the next one. Let's talk about the connection between the creativity and the healing, because I believe that's where you want to go. So how did the art journaling become more than just a hobby for you, to where the healing did become and it came in?
So, over time, and like I said, my anxiety went way up, and I started to also recognize, I think art journaling is particularly powerful for life transitions. And that's where I do a lot of my coaching, and my new certification is we go through life transitions about every 12 to 18 months. I mean, we would like things to be smooth and steady, but every 12 to 18 months, something's happening, whether it's with the career, with the family member, whether we're moving, the transition, some we choose, some we don't, right? Some are society, some are individual. And during that particular time, not only was there the pandemic, but there was some empty nest going on in my life, and a job that I had really loved. I realized I still love the company, but I no longer love the job. It didn't feel like my purpose. And I had always sort of been told, you want to have something else before you quit, and there's different life stages. And what I noticed through the processing of anxiety is I did a lot of collage. I use very inexpensive, this is a key thing about art journaling and keeping that inner critic at bay. I use all kids' things. I use crayons. I use the big fat glue stick. I love that glue stick. Shout out to Elmer's. It's a purple glue stick. It's really, I spend as little as I can. You get these at 5 and dimes. You get them at, Walmart's, wherever. So what I was doing, watercolors, everything is a kid's material, because that keeps it playful and it keeps self-judgment out of the way. And we need a place without self-judgment, right? You talk so much about self-love, and that is so, so important. But the first step is really sort of quieting that vicious critic.
Yes.
I mean, you get that. You know that to quiet that. And I have found it's very hard for adults to take themselves seriously when they're holding a crayon, right? As adults, we don't think we're going to become, we're not telling ourselves some wild fantasy of the artist we're about to become when we're holding 2 crayons or the glue stick or some finger paints, right? And so it keeps us playful, and it doesn't allow the critic in, because what the heck are you criticizing? And then learning, I talk so much in the book and in my coaching about self-compassion, right? If you're all curious about art journaling, it takes 3 things. There's 3 things you need. You want to play 10 minutes a day. You just want to have some fun, play. You want to be curious. Like, you want to sort of ask yourself after, like, how does this feel?
Yeah.
Fun, not fun, cathartic? I don't know, just curious. And then really deep self-compassion. You want to be your own proud parent. Like, if you think of that story I just told you, and I hung the brown mess up on my refrigerator, and my husband and son are like, okay, I loved it. I was my own proud parent. And you find that self-approval feels more real than all the other accolades. I mean, you know that, right? So as I was playing during that period in my art journal, what deeper started to happen is I would start to turn to it when I was upset. And I talked about it being a safe container, and a container that I would come to it at a rage. And I use this one image in my book of like this like wild cat with like claws and teeth, where you feel that rage building in you. And that was my symbol, and all these slashes and like even little screaming faces. But after that emotion passes, you look back and you sort of can love the person who was having that feeling, because that person process the feeling on paper that's privately for them. They didn't process it on a family member, right? They didn't unleash it on someone else. I didn't do anything harmful to myself, eat too much, whatever a person might do, binge out, watching TV. So it became this really safe container. And then I would flip back and I would see rather it was anxiety, rage. Rage is that flip side of a very anxious mind. It's looking for somewhere to go. And I started to have a lot more compassion, if you will, for my emotions. And as I would flip through the pages, I started to see some themes emerging. I also used collage, anything that would come in the mailbox, any catalog, anything. I'd cut out pictures, and it's amazing what you find, whether it's closed doors or open doors that you need to walk through, plants growing. It's your own sort of symbols. There was a period before I quit my job where I had found all these images. I'm not even fully sure where I found it. Must have been like a travel thing of people standing or looking at cliffs or looking over the edge. But it wasn't just one image. It was pages and pages over months and months that really helped me realize I was ready. I've been waiting. I'm on the verge. And that's where on a deeper level, much more a soul level, I recognized that by getting into that right side of my brain, that's where art lives. Music, dance is in that right intuitive side of our brain, and getting out of my left brain, the list, the to-dos, the shoulds, helpful for holding down a job, for sure, helpful for raising a family, all that, but you can't beat all that. And my intuition, my soul, whatever you want to call it, was really talking to me, and it was helping me and helped others since I've been teaching this. I notice it can really transform that worry, that anxiety into anticipation, right? Because that's the positive place we want to go. We want to move all that worry and fear into anticipation, curiosity. And you start to, as the pages and the days, I'm only doing this like 10 minutes a day. I want to be really clear. I did not have much time during this period. So this is like 10 minutes. And once again, because I'm not producing art, it's the process, right? And I'm the one who understands my scribbles and my little notes, my little screaming faces or happy faces, right? Whatever. That's where the power really came. And I'd always joked, I actually had a first career before HR, that's how old I am, in journalism. And I'd always joked, I spent 11 years doing that. I would never write a book, right? It's like, would never expose myself, would never sort of share that authentically. And same with if you're in a corporate job, like your friends know you, but you're not just sort of, flying your flag fully. And darned if when I took the leap and did something new, I didn't realize that because the tool was so powerful and I've seen so many others and done so much coaching, I felt compelled to share it. So then I go and do two things I said I would never do. Not only do I write a book, but it's a book where I show my darn art journal to show people this low barrier, that it's not about creating art. And I tell stories about being bullied in my first career and what that was like, and struggling with the decision to quit my corporate job, and even the pains. I'm a person who gets a lot of body pains. My body really talks to me. I think our bodies talk to all of us. Let me be clear. Mine can go on hyperdrive, and that's what gets my attention. It's like, okay, what's happening? So I felt truly compelled, and it's been interesting since the book came out and the course this summer in July, and I've been teaching it, to watch other people, right? There's a lot of paths to wholeness and self-discovery and self-compassion, but for the people this is working for, and even for ones who may not want to do the art journaling, but understand that they need a little more self-compassion, maybe a little more curiosity, maybe a little more play to help them through a tough period, it's been really powerful. And it's what I love about your messages and this month's theme, particularly, because it's sustainable, It's easy. It doesn't cost anything. It
Right.
doesn't take any real time. Like I said, I do it like 10 minutes. So
Yeah. And I love even when you talk about the importance of childlike sense of play.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I want, because I know you spoke about it just before, but I want you to really let our listeners know how important is that? How important is it for our growth, for reconnecting with our childlike sense of play?
Yeah. So that sense of play, what it does for us is it frees us to possibilities. If you can think back to when you were a kid or watch kids, at a playground, they are not judging themselves. They are playing for the act of play,
Yeah.
not for an outcome. They're not thinking, oh, I burned this many calories or I built muscles or I mean, what
There
all,
is no goal. Fun.
and that's what we lose, right? I mean, there's lots of reasons we move away from that because even if we do things that we say are play, maybe a game night with friends, maybe someone, plays a sport or hikes, there's a lot of comparison that still goes on and you can still get some of that. But when it is true play for no other outcome than play, it's extremely freeing. I liken it to so many people I've talked to will get a great idea in the shower, right? And I mean, it's sort of a cliche, but it's true. But think of the reason why. You don't get in the shower thinking you're going to get a great idea. You get in the shower for, to get clean, to have some quiet time and whatever's going on in your house, you get in the shower for, right? It's private, if nothing else. And then your mind relaxes
Mhm.
and all that inner wisdom can bubble up. So if I think about your question and the key of your question, play is important because it really opens us to possibilities that when we're grinding, we can't see. We're shutting ourselves down. And that's really why play is so powerful. And unfortunately, we can be so resistant to the word.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, I can see and I can feel that. It's funny that when you said the shower, I was like, oh my God, I remember moments of times when I get in the shower. That used to be my thinking tank for a while. That used to be my
Yeah.
thinking tank. Then it used to be my driving to work. I used to work like an hour and 45 minutes from where I lived at. That was a
Oh,
nice little drive. And that used to be my thinking tank. Now, since I work at home now, everything is at home. So my thinking is cleaning. When I'm cleaning and my music is on, oh my God, there's just so many things. And I'm just writing. Stop writing. There's everything just come from there. So I can see that, especially when you're playing and there is like nothing you just all just in this one thing playing and having a good time, and then it just relaxes because your mind is relaxed when you cleaning, you're relaxed.
yeah. And it can be a road. It's the same with driving, right? Every example you've had gets us into that flow state,
Yeah.
right? And that's what you're talking about. Well, your mind, you don't have an expectation of perfection. You're doing it. Your body knows how to do it. That's why the art, the
Exactly.
scribbling, right? You're not setting out to make a piece of art. You're just playing. And yeah, I love the cleaning. I do. I remember entire drives where all of a sudden it always a little scary, but you show up and you're like, dang, glad I knew how to get there. But it's really, it's interesting. And that's that ability for our left side of our brain to relax and really let that more intuitive, holistic place take over. So whatever it can be, I mean, I've talked about art journaling because you can look back on it. It could be so many things: singing, dancing. I mean, to your point, cleaning. But what's interesting is you have music on. I've taught when I teach workshops and I have folks do exercises and spread out, I always play music. And it's the feedback I get about how much, because they know there's other people doing exercise, the music frees them up because, we all know music speaks to us and it sort of moves us along. So the concept of play, like all the concepts I talk about with art journaling, can be replicated in any number of areas. That the key is that it's not really about the outcome or doing something perfectly, right? It's about you having that release. And then a lot of the interesting thing about cleaning, and I'm not advocating we all go and do more cleaning, but the thing about it is it also is making you feel good. You see a really nice result. Now, you're not going to have your home inspect, you're not going to do this, but there's something in it where you're your proud parent, like you're proud of yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you think of that after you clean, I know that's how I feel. I love nothing more. It's like, I always step back and admire the way I've cleaned. It's like,
Yeah.
it's good.
Good girl.
It is. And it sounds so silly, but we tell ourselves so many mean things, right? And that's what I like about the art journaling exercises is you become a little more aware of that voice and the negative voice. And the more you're aware of the negative voice, the more, one, you can sort of stop it, but two, you can start to just give yourself some, way to go, good job, proud of you, right? And the more you build that in, it quite honestly just feels good. Makes our days just a little brighter.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Okay. So let's do this. Let's make this practical for our listeners.
Yeah.
All right. So not everyone sees themselves as artistic. Okay.
No, I don't. So
Right.
in all fairness, I do not see myself as
So
artistic.
could you walk us through a simple art journaling exercise that anyone could try?
Sure. My favorite, and I start every workshop off with this, is if possible, take either 2 crayons, 2 colored pencils, 2 colored gel pens, 2 things with color. If worst come to worst, a black and a blue pen, right? If you can find that, or 1 pencil, 1 pen. Take a small piece of paper. It doesn't need to be 8 by 10, right? It can fold it in half, piece of scrap paper, back of an envelope, junk mail, right? So, and for 3 minutes, put on a song. If you want, fill that paper with those 2 colors. Just 3 minutes, fill the page. If you're holding crayons, a lot of people just scribble, or colored pencils. Other people doodle with the 2 different colors. I've seen people, draw things, but the goal is 3 minutes. And I have found a bunch of perfectly 3-minute songs. I get it out in the workshop, and your goal is to just fill that piece of paper. And what I like about it, why that exercise works, is it's a constraint. You don't have unlimited choices. You've just chosen, let's pretend you're using crayons, right? You've chosen red and blue crayon. And you only have 3 minutes, and you're to fill a paper. You're not to draw one thing perfectly. You are to scribble across and get as much color. And that's sort of one of the opening exercises to just release. And then I ask people afterwards, we talk about it. And in my online course, people sort of think about, how did it feel? And you get this whole range of feelings. Some of the most common are free, fun, silly. And I've gotten silly good and silly negative. It's really interesting. And the silly good, they're smiling when they say it. When I get a silly negative, it's a person's thinking, I don't like the way you're doing it. Because I'll ask some questions. It's like, tell me a little bit more when it's the bad silly, And it's really interesting. They're like, well, the whole time I was judging myself. It's like, okay. Because we also talk about not inviting that inner critic to our joke. It's like a play date. Anyone who's been around kids have no problem being like, you're not invited. I'm not, younger kids are not nice to other kids. Like they don't really want to share and embrace. And it's okay for us with our inner critic. Let's be clear. It's like, I joke that you look at that inner critic when you do this and you're like, nah, you stay over there. And then we'll do another timed exercise where we'll actually sort of, I have them like sort of hold up their hand and be like, you are not invited. Those that had felt silly and judged in their first exercise. And we do another timed exercise, but with a different thing. That really helps people start to unlock. And that's where they can see, one, how judgmental they can be of themselves, right? And two, they reflect, was this fun, right? I don't want to act like everyone's going to have fun scribbling on a piece of paper for 3 minutes, right? I mean, we're all different. Most people actually do have fun. And it reminds them of being a kid, of playing with someone, of being in wherever, kindergarten, something like that. And they get a kick out of it. And then that's what starts the curiosity. That's what starts the self-compassion. And you just start to build exercise after exercise on that cycle so that you're building muscle. And by the end of it, right, if a person adapts it, ideally your self-compassion's gone up, you're tapping into your intuition, you're feeling a little more authentic, right? So those are the really rich benefits that come. Very least, it's like 10 minutes of relaxation.
I like that. So my next question is, who would this be ideal for? How you say some people come in, they very critical, and it's like we want somebody to come in for, my open mind, but who is the ideal candidate for this?
Okay. So here's my journey on that. I have initially, like when you write a book, they're like, who's your target? And so I pictured some women who are working women who are raising families. I pictured them as my target. What I have found is who it's not great for is anyone with an artistic background. They really struggle to get rid of the inner critic because they've either made some money or have wanted to make money. So when you said if you don't have any artistic, it's perfect for people who've never defined themselves as artistic or even creative. That's who it's absolutely best for. The folks who have really struggled with it are those that went to art school. And I've had a few of them, and we've brainstormed other things they might do, sing, learn to drum. One of them joked, do math, because they didn't feel good at math. So, the goal is to go to a place where you don't have an expectation of, say, improving. So it was originally targeted, like I said, in my mind, for sort of busy women, maybe raising families. What I have found actually is it's best for people going through life transitions, and we can go through those a number of times. I was recently speaking at a university, and oh my gosh, those students, so stressed, and they're so focused on getting jobs, getting internships, getting good grades. I mean, right? Debt, how are they going to make it in the world? A lot of it feels very scary to be a young person right now. Some days I'm grateful I'm where I am. And I had them doing an exercise about just doing something bad for 10 minutes. They got a kick out of this. I'm like, just be bad. Like, what? But it was appealing. So they're going through a life transition, starting a career, people changing jobs, sometimes people, caregivers. I have found it because you can do it at home. I also got involved with some caregiving during this period when I discovered it. And folks who are doing a lot of caregiving know that you can be very housebound and you can feel that you can start to get really burned out. It's great for that. So, what?
Cabin fever.
Yeah, you get it. And so the recommendation has really shifted. I think if you're cruising along and you're in one of those really stable periods, it could be fun. You may learn about yourself, but I would say if your life is being rocked in some way, right? Move, job change, family change, relationship change, physical, right? Caregiving, passing. That's where I've seen it be most impactful, because I think you're really opening and you're struggling. I mean, I want to be clear. It's really helpful in times of uncertainty and struggle, because it starts to, one, as I said, be a safe space for all those messy emotions and the starts and stops of transitions and the grief at the start of a transition. Even transitions we want, there's still some grief, right? Yeah. You think of bittersweet, even, graduations, weddings, there's just change. That's where it tends to be most powerful, because it starts fun, but then is that container for the emotions. And then it really allows your soul, your authentic self. It just helps you recognize how resilient you are. And I think it can start to get you excited for the future, even if you don't know what that future looks like. You might see that you're using some symbols that are happy for the future. People maybe start drawing trees, suns. It's sort of interesting how we have our own personal symbols and colors that give us hope.
Nice. I love that. I do. I love that. Even the way that you just spoke about it. Hmm. That's good. I have a thought in my mind, and I'll share it with you after the show. I see something, and why. Let me say this. Why I asked this is because I see a room with not just women, but both men and women
Yeah.
that are doing this workshop. That's amongst each other.
Yeah. Men
Um,
have enjoyed it more than I
yeah,
ever thought. Men
yeah,
come every single time.
yeah. I can see that, and majority, a lot of my listeners, there are men as well, and they've been very vulnerable on this self-love journey, and I love that for them. I do. Um, I love the fact that the childlike, even with that as being vulnerable in the safe space, it
Mm.
also takes it back to the foundation of who we are.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. That essence, right before
yeah,
the world sort of in culture shapes us and tells
yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I love all of this. I do. I love it. I love it all. I'm so glad because reading it and then really just sitting down, like, okay, I really want to know what this means because I know that, hey, I know it's supposed to be here, but now I got to hear it for myself and feel it in just, yeah. So I got a personal question for you. Now, when you decided that it was time for you to leave,
Mhm.
what was that for you? When it was time for you to leave your job, your HR job, and move forward, how was that for you?
So it was a series of stages because I gave a lot of notice. I kept thinking that pandemic was going to be over. So I'm like, when the pandemic's over. So we know how long that went.
Right.
Um, so at first, I was really excited because the change was a long way off. And then what happened is the darn pains came. I talked to you how my body talks to me
Yeah.
because even though intellectually I could tell myself it's okay not to have a plan, I've prepared to have a period before I sort of start working. I knew I wanted to be more of a consultant and self-employed. And so I prepared for that. My family prepared for that. I got more and more scared. And then what happens is well meaning people, well meaning friends, people who love you, who think they know you, say things to you like you're going to go crazy because you've got so much energy and you get scared. You hear that. And we all need time. Here's the thing about transitions. They're uncomfortable because we're changing and growing. And growth isn't comfortable, right? And there's endings, there's really long, messy middles, and then there's new beginnings. And if we don't allow ourselves space to be in that messy middle, I got anxious and I really doubled down on my art journal when those pains started. I mean, I went to a million doctors. I want to be clear. I always get the stuff checked out. I don't just think I'm being anxious, but I've lived enough to know my stomach, shooting stomach pains tells me one thing, short, just who I am. We get to know our bodies when we pay a lot of attention. And those started and they scared me and made me think maybe I was making a mistake. And so I journaled, right? This isn't easy. And I got through that period, but it gave me a lot of empathy and it helped me recognize that in this next stage, I didn't want to just be a career coach and executive coach. I really wanted to help people in life transitions and even with some of my volunteer work because work has rules, right? And ways that we can do it and behaviors. The life stuff is unique to each of us. We are connected and similar, and yet we're each having a different experience.
Yes.
And as I have learned more and more about transitions, and these people were so well-meaning, right? That I will go crazy if I don't know what I'm going to do. I also recognize that what's helpful is give yourself a lot of time, not just a month. It can take a few years. You didn't build a career, you didn't start a relationship exactly overnight. And that thought that we can't have time where we're bored or scared or not sure what we're doing really does us a disservice. And I think people just jump one from one thing to another. And so that was, as you're asking me about that period, one of my biggest learnings. And now when I work with people, whether it's the online course or workshops or just in transition coaching, it's you got to really give yourself space. And even if you're privately thinking, if I don't know what to do the first day, that I'm not doing this, who am I without this? You're sort of telling yourself you're okay. There's all these analogies. I love the analogy of the caterpillar in the chrysalis who turns to goo.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, not comfortable turning to goo. No, no one likes to feel like your whole life is dissolving. And yet sometimes we go through transitions, right? If 2 or 3 things happen, a relationship change, a divorce or a death or a breakup, and a job change and a location change, you don't know who the heck you are coming and going. And that is turning to goo. And you're just not going to get that rebuilt as fast as you want to, right? And that's where you've got to hold so much space for yourself. It's where I like building that self-compassion muscle through art journaling. It's like, you got this. You got this. You got up today. You took a shower today. You got this, small baby steps. So yeah, it was a much rougher journey than I would have hoped for. I would have liked everything all organized, quite type A, left to my own devices. No one's ever described me as patient. But I'm working on it, right? That's part of my journey. Yeah. And the art journaling helped me. And quite honestly, being really uncomfortable helped me and recognize the lies I was believing, right?
Yeah.
Like culture will tell you things. Not to be mean, friends, people who love you tell you things because they think they're helping. Like they wanted me to have a plan. They wanted me to say, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this because I think maybe it would make them feel better if they ever quit, if I had my act together, and I didn't. I sort of jumped off the cliff and sort of struggled around for a while. And then, you find your footing, and that the struggle, if we embrace it, is good. There's a lot of rich stuff in that struggle.
What was so amazing is that I know you recognize the gift in all of that. I know you do, because then in that you found your purpose. Yeah. Now you're so full. As you were speaking and you were talking, all I kept saying is that, this is all about that paradigm. That change of that paradigm. And when he speak about, the people around you, it can be your family members, your loved ones, whatever, you're on a whole high, you're another frequency. And you have these people around you talking like they don't know what the hell they're talking about, but you're still in there with them and you feel like you're lost.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what I saw. And I looked and I said, but through all of that chaos, there was something that's so magical that happened, and you came out with something that is a part of your purpose, along with everything that you were doing before. So it all aligned, like everything aligned. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I'm thankful that you're sharing it with us right here on this platform. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. What's interesting is we haven't talked about it because it doesn't come up, but the subtitle for my book, you just said it. So it's like Art for Your Sanity, how art journaling can help you manage chaos and unleash joy, because that's what it felt like when you said it. And the company that was helping me publish the book, that subtitle about managing chaos and unleashing joy felt like that period of my life. And then all of a sudden you go and say it, because we haven't been talking generically about the book. I don't think I've even said the title, let alone the subtitle. And it's interesting because that's what we all feel internally, even if we don't show it, even if we don't acknowledge it. Yeah. You don't get through this life without feeling that, I use chaos. And then, God willing, we're able to unleash some joy, right? Because you want to keep growing, not stagnate. And I think those well-meaning people who were telling me, I needed a plan and needed something to do, were afraid I would stagnate.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can always appreciate the intention, even if the words are not helpful, right? It was, and yet if you really think about it, that statement is, I have faith in you to figure out your next phase. Right? That's like the really big and empowering statement, is just trusting each person to, to find their way and to grow. But that's hard. And I, like I said, I always appreciate people's intentions, my friends and families. I really do. So if they're listening, not giving you a hard time.
Well, you know what? Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been great. This truly been so good. I am so full with 2024. 2024 has truly been an amazing year for me. I'm talking like it's the last episode of the month, but it's not. But still, this is our last series of the year, and I'm just glad that we were able to get you on here.
Oh, me too. It's been great. I've so enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. So before we wrap, could you just tell us a little bit more about your book?
Okay.
And where they can find it at? Yeah.
Yeah. So best thing, because I have a free PDF, is my website is Susan-Hensley.com. Super simple. The book's there, which is Art for Your Sanity. There's video there, and there's video course. And we've talked a lot about on the course, but there's a free downloadable PDF that just gets you started art journaling. So early, we talked about how to start. If any of your listeners are at all intrigued, or you know someone who you think might like it, download the PDF, right? Print it out. It gives you tips. What I love about the art journaling, it's low barrier, right? To start and to just see if it sparks that joy. So easiest way, the book is anywhere you buy books, quite honestly. But if you want to just dabble, not spend any money, get the PDF and see if just playing a little bit on your own helps.
Beautiful. But again, thank you, Susan. And to my beautiful people out there for the season of self-love, I just want to give you a beautiful reminder that elevation doesn't always have to be so serious. No, it doesn't. Sometimes it comes through play, through color, through just letting ourselves be beginners again. Be a little childlike, a little finger painting and all of that other stuff. Again, Susan, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you all for just joining us today. So until tomorrow, remember, keep loving yourself. This is Nyomi signing out. Season of Self-Love Podcast. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love Podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.